Hello, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon to Mastering Supply Chain Resilience and BABA Compliance for BEAD Programs webinar with our AFL Global Partner. Presenting today from AFL is our Senior Application Engineer, Rich McGill, and Regional Sales Manager for the Midwest, Jeff Fisher. Also representing from Winncom Technologies, our very own Fiber Product Manager, Alex Cernick. If anyone has any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to add them and they will be addressed. Alex, you're up.
Thank you, Dawn, for the introduction, and special thanks for all of you joining today. Again, my name is Alex Cernick, and I'm a Fiber Product Manager and BEAD Program Manager here at Winncom Technologies. As a quick reminder, Winncom Technologies has been a top global supplier of eco-center solutions for nearly 30 years now. Today, I'm excited to talk to you about our fiber portfolio and how it can relate to BEAD. In addition to partnering with strategic suppliers like AFL, whom you'll hear from shortly, Winncom offers a wide range of eco-center solutions. Now, from active fiber options to fixed wireless access and literally everything in between. We also provide a comprehensive suite of technical support that includes engineering, design, and consultative services. With multiple warehousing facilities at our disposal, we're fully equipped to configure, kit, and deliver solutions exactly when and where you need them. Now, for today's presentation, we've opted for a panel-based discussion format. So here's how it's going to work. Our panelists will ask a question. Some questions may require only a quick verbal response, and others will include some supporting documentation. To ensure an interactive experience, please feel free to ask questions as they come up. If you're interested in a more one-on-one based breakout session, we'll have that information at the end of this presentation in regarding how to reach out. So the first topic we have today as part of our panel discussion is supporting a stable supply chain for BEAD. So my question to AFL, considering the significant disruptions to the global fiber supply chain and cable production during COVID-19, some customers may be concerned that with BEAD, fiber optic manufacturers could face similar challenges, particularly with competition for limited supplies of glass, cladding, connectors, and other essential materials. Given the risk of potential bottlenecks in procurement, testing, and deployment, how has AFL positioned itself to meet the increased demand and capacity required for the BEAD program while ensuring a stable supply chain for customers?
Yeah, so Rich and I will just kind of go back and forth as we do on some of these calls throughout the entire presentation. I'm remote. Rich is right there at the headquarter office when he's not traveling and doing various training sessions. So he hears a little bit more than me sometimes. But the quick answer is we started upgrading facilities, adding capacity, as long as 2 years ago. And that continues to this day to get ourselves in position so that we don't have to have or experience those supply chain issues and extended lead times that we did coming out of COVID. So on that note, we do have a global manufacturing footprint, which will help. Alex and I talked about this last week, not only here in the US, which will be for BABA compliance and BEAD related funding, but with that global manufacturing footprint that allows us to also keep up with the business as usual projects that are going on, not related to BEAD and BABA. So we can kind of pull from different areas when we have to, but with the upgrades in the facilities, we're confident that we are ready for the demand to increase and be able to keep lead times at a reasonable level.
And to jump in a little bit deeper on that, as to what you were saying, Jeff, a lot was learned by a lot of manufacturers back with COVID. One of the things that it brought to light was availability of certain materials, single source materials. Our APEX product had been coming out of design at that point in time and was a primary focus that the lessons that we learned about material having multiple vendors, multiple suppliers, standardized materials. A lot of the impact of the changes AFL made in their own supply chain then is starting to show now as we get strains on supply chain, having multiple vendors, having standardized parts, standardized product that can be interchanged to meet our customers' demands.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if one of those vendors gets backed up or falls down, we've got other avenues to get the same materials we need and components we need to put the various products together.
No, that's fantastic. And if I could just share a point from our perspective at Winncom, kind of what sets us apart is our ability to provide, and I'll use this term a couple times in this conversation, a turnkey eco-center solution, especially where it helps us understand demand. Now, when it comes to BEAD applicants, we make it easy for our customers by providing a single point of contact through our sales team. Supporting that sales team, we have program managers, product managers, experts, engineering support. And later in this conversation, I'll dive deeper into our enhanced services. But just to give you a sneak peek, we can do high-level fiber designs, pre-engineering support, grant writing assistance, professional engineering assistance, and then we've got some really unique financial options. How this kind of correlates into supporting that stable supply chain is by walking you through the application process to pre-qualification to submission. It gives us the ability to help build out that eco center, which in turn allows us to work with our suppliers like AFL to ensure that when you're awarded those grants, we're in the best possible position to be able to facilitate on a timely basis. So our next section of this discussion is to talk about their AFL's APEX line. And I get a lot of questions from customers that are looking for alternative to CommScope solutions, alternatives to the CommScope FOC in particular, where they're looking for a different version of an environmentally and sealed enclosure for OSP fiber management. Now, that's driven by concerns about availability and a desire to find out what's the next best option. My question is, how does AFL's product compare in terms of performance, availability, and innovation?
Thank you, Alex. The AFL APEX line, you mentioned CommScope's FOC. That's been the industry leader for many years. If you go beyond that, you've got some closures from PLP and some very, very strong, reputable closure manufacturers out there. A lot of those were designed when we had traditional loose tube, when we had traditional ribbon. APEX was designed by the craft, is the best way I can describe it. I was involved in it. It was 3 years of working in the field. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What do you like about PLP? What do you like about FOC? And what are the things you wish you could have? When we took that information, we coupled that it was really the onset of rollable ribbon. And rollable ribbon has really led the way to some closure changes, decrease in size, closure flexibility, actually being able to create a universal closure. And that's really what birthed APEX. So if we can go down to the highlights page, it'll be neat. Here we go. Your increased density. And you'll see that as you get, whether it's loose tube or whether it's in ribbon or whether it's in rollable ribbon, we've taken and used every usable inch within the closure for density. One of the key things is individual sealing ports. Your individual sealing ports do not force you to go through a single location, and every time that you open or close the closure, you are not affecting the seals of other cables. It's allowing a much more effective closure in the field by having it. One of the smallest attributes that we added, one of the biggest things that matters in the field, is the O-ring is attached to the dome. It sounds like a very simple thing, but to any of the technicians that have been out there, the number of times they've picked the O-ring up out of the dirt, and I'll leave it at a few times they may have even forgotten to put it back on. We have it pre-installed onto the dome itself, but once again, it's field replaceable. Your ease of installation, that was the goal for APEX, how to make it craft friendly. I need one tool. I need a 216 can wrench, 3/8, 7/16. Any one of those things is the only tool I need to install APEX. From a warehousing standpoint, from an availability standpoint, from a technician grabbing a box to go out into the field, I have one closure. I have one tray. I have multiple sizes from X1 to X3, but they all carry the same attributes in that splice tray, I can do my single splices, I can do my ribbon splices, I can add a PLC splitter at 250 micron, I can do an add drop mux, all in a single tray. That affects their warehousing, that rolls all the way back into supply chain. I need a component to give my technician to fix for their customers in the field. The entire splice tray was changed in the way that we had previously done it. We went to a modular configuration to allow for some of the additional components for filters and things such as that to be installed right into the tray. It's got a hard polycarbonate cover that snaps across the top, which means that the splice sleeves not only are retained by the sides, but are also retained on the top. One of the key things that came across, we've always seen variation in single sleeve diameter once it's shrunk between manufacturers and also between holders and trays. Whether it's you get 23 in a 24 chip and you can't fit the 24th, or all 24 are in and you knock the tray the wrong way and half of them fall out. One of the goals with APEX was anybody's single sleeve will be retained. And that was accomplished. So really that splice sleeve area allows for the complete universal.
Nice.
Your grounds are factory installed. This is one of the things that, as it is a 20-foot waterhead GR771 closure, you're not adding and drilling holes in the product out in the field. They come pre-installed. One of the biggest things is the large basket, it's got multiple tie downs, and that's something the craft is really not used to. They're used to a flat basket where they can store things. This will allow them multiple layers of their non-designated mid-span, their designated mid-span, their laterals, their drops to be sequentially built up. The other additional thing, we created an inner basket in our X2 and X3 products, which can be used or it is field removable as well. Probably one of the biggest things that we did from the very beginning was any component of APEX can be field replaced, from the spline to the basket to the wedges. They can all be field replaced, and that's not saying you want to have inventory of spare parts or spare parts at the warehouse. They're not going to break, but it gives you the option. You have another closure in your truck, you can take that component out, you can keep the closure that you've got up in service even faster. If you want to go through to the next slide, I'll highlight a couple of the things that we do. This is basically your family. It runs all the way from X1 to X3. X1 is actually left at the bottom because it's a few weeks off from being released. That is your typical, that would go in your small to mid-size, your FOSC, your runt in that area, your A, B, your X2, X2S at the top would be your C and D, and really your X3 trends into that area of the 600. If you were looking for some direct comparison, that's the closest that I can see, but you can see from those capacities there. Those singles are all based upon using slim sleeves, which can be quad stacked. The next slide. So really what I'm going to just take a moment here and point out, just highlight some of the differences there. You'll see form, very similar to a 450, very similar to the majority of closures that are out there. Your hanging is you are able to use cable spacers, Deltec. We do have hanging brackets that are standard as well as adjustable, as well as for ADSS. As you can see, the 6 individual ports, you see the grounds that are there. They all have link locks between them. They all can be isolated, and there are numbered ring lugs on the inside that correlate to that. Next slide. So that as you see, there's an alignment key, and that gives you what I would refer to as your 12 o'clock position. When you're hanging your closure, when you're putting it in a vault, knowing where that insert position is tells you where your splice basket is for long-term deployment. As you can see, the staggered spline of the individual trays and the O-ring that is completely attached. What you also see is your 6 individual wedges, and that is your independent access to each cable. Your next slide. So that what you see here is probably the significant difference in APEX. Okay, from day 1, it's a more effective closure, but day 2, a year from now, 2 years from now, I have to go into it. I never have to bother the cables that exist. I open the dome, I loosen the gel compression screw, I open the one wedge that I need, and I can install my cable. And as you can see, tucked back in there is what we call a cable attachment unit. I want to reference one last thing before we go to the next slide, is that when you tighten on the gel compression screw, you're actually tightening a spring. You're tightening a spring to a gel seal. We've all lived with our strand at August and December and the expansion and contraction that takes place in the outside plant. The same thing happens in a closure. This is a 20-foot waterhead closure. Not all closures that are being installed in the field will meet GR771 20-foot waterhead. APEX has met every criteria of that, but every component that you see there is field replaceable. Next slide. What you see here is the cable attachment unit. This is what through one bolt attaches into the core. Everything I do right on this. My retention, my ground, my central strength, and it also has a breakaway line for cables such as wrapping tube cable that has bonded central strength members that do not need to be retained. It allows it to easily be taken out of the way. Basically, it's optimized for next generation splicing and splicing needs. Next slide. What you see here is the tray. That's a tray for an X2. X1 and X2S have got 2 chips. X3 has 6 chips. It's all the building blocks. They're all identical, but that is your 6th position that will triple stack, single or double stack ribbon or splitters, and any other component will slide right in. It can be installed in the field. There's no need to inventory splitter trays, things like that. The devices can be added right in the field. This, once again, is how you impact at a component level, giving the field options, giving them the flexibility to install what they need on a given job site. Next.
Trey, did you want to see the tray?
No, but we went through. We just went through the tray.
Okay, good deal.
Alex, questions? I mean, you're on the end that you have the customers asking you. Does that give you the information you need?
I think that was extremely straightforward. And I would add one aspect to it. If you're one of those customers that are challenged with supply chain on the CommScope side, reach out to us. We can have just a quick conversation of what you're looking to accomplish. And then we can, as we went through here, provide an apples to apples comparison. But as we spoke, there are a lot of inherent benefits with the APEX product line, which we could certainly highlight. This has been a fantastic product. We've had a lot of success here with Winncom. And again, please engage us if you've got any questions additionally.
Okay, so we've touched on BABA and compliance. So I guess the question for you, Alex, would be if you could take a few minutes to discuss the current state of the BEAD program and what it currently looks like today.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so what I'm showing here is obviously a map of the US, but one of the key things, and I'll reference this between this and the next slide, it's timing. Right now, and this was as of the 18th of this month, 44 states have had their Volume 2s ratified or approved by the NTIA. And what that means simply is it starts a clock. Once the NTIA approves it, each state has 1 year from that date. And in that time, there's a lot of things they've got to accomplish. They have to finish their challenge process. So the challenge to rebuttal, to reunification, all that has to be done, which gives a final tally of how many locations are served, underserved, and where are those community anchor locations. Now, from there, they also need to define their project areas. So a lot of states are going through pre-qualification, which I'll speak to in detail on the next slide. But one of the keys of how you put together these grant applications, you have to know the details of how that state is working. Is it based on county? Is it based on census blocks? Is it based on zip codes? How do you need as a sub-grantee to submit your application? Again, timing is of the essence. Now, what I want to showcase with this slide here, there are 18 states that have either started or finalized their pre-qualification. And why this is so important, you can apply for pre-qualification and there's no negative ramifications associated to it. You're not forced to bid. What it does give you is the ability to bid on either round of funding. If you happen to miss your state's pre-qualification, you're not eligible to bid on any round of grant funding. So the keys here are, when do these pre-qualifications, and again, it's a little bit different per state, when do they expire? Now, here at Winncom Technology, we try to make this an easy process. One of the things I'm showing here is our BEAD portal resource. So for each state, referencing right here, these are all embedded hyperlinks, but we give you the state, how much money was awarded to that, and then as you click into this, first of which it'll give you a high level, when is the pre-qualification deadline ending, but we also provide documentation and we provide support. So from a documentation perspective, the example I'm showing here is Colorado. So we're able to identify the grant program guidelines, and there's a summary document, and then there's like a 60-page in-depth document. There's workbooks. Resources could be links to their portal, links to their broadband map, links to where you can find eligible locations, or a CAI list where they're defining their project areas, how they're scoring these grant applications. It's called a scoring rubric. There's different allocations and percentages for different categories. What that state's technology preference looks like, along with high cost areas, locations, and how they're defining it, and some FAQs. Now, again, my experience with BEAD thus far, to say it's complicated would be an oversimplification. Information is all over God's creation, so it's pulling it together, it's having it in a logical format that you can reference. But in addition to that, going back to that time is of the essence, we can help you through this entire process. If it's registering through pre-qualification, not only can we help provide each individual state's requirements, but we can help you walk through if there's questions or concerns about, is it a form you need to fill out, what kind of documentation, what kind of financial aspects do you have to provide. We can help you with lockstep. And then as things progress, as I alluded to previously, we've got a host of support services that really make this an easier process. So from my experience with working with suppliers like Nokia on the active side, the ONTs, the OLTs, their XGS PON, I know BABA certifications, they can be complex and restrictive, requiring suppliers to have domestic manufacturing facilities that source at least 55% of the components within the US. For fiber, I understand the same applies. So final assembly and components have to be here domestically. However, the glass also needs to be sourced here. What is AFL's perspective on these BABA certification requirements, and which of your products are currently certified or eligible for exemption?
Sure. So it's something we've dug in our heels on and have been going after this, following all the steps and procedures to gain compliance, including a dedicated team within AFL that I think we've got a slide coming up. Has made a few trips to the White House to sit down with the BEAD committees and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So you brought up this page we're looking at here, which is available on our website. We have a Connect in America link right on our website homepage that will take you to everything BEAD.
Jeff, it's a little hard to hear you.
I wonder if my connection's going. Hold on. Is that better?
Yes, much
better.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so we do have the link on our website that'll take you to everything BEAD and BABA related. I would ask all of you to go on there, but this is one of the pages you would see. So as you can see where the green check marks are, we're already set and ready to go. If we're not, it gives you the roadmap. So for loose tube cable, we're already there. For the ribbon, that's in progress for sure by Q1 of 2025, if not sooner. We'll be compliant there. Some things do get a waiver, as Alex was saying. If you scroll down, you can see for like equipment. So fusion splicers, test and inspection equipment, so your OTDRs, things like that, does not apply. There's waivers already in place for that. So really, I think the last one that would be compliant is the ribbon cable, which is first quarter of 25. The APEXs, which we just went over, by the end of the calendar year 24. I mean, I think Rich could tell you they might already actually be right now. We just haven't updated. I think Scott Charles did that.
Yeah, I said they're very close to it right now, Jeff. I know that.
Yeah, so we're there. We'll have everything in our entire portfolio, fiber to home related products that will be BEAD and BABA compliant. You touched on the fiber, Alex. Do you want me to go into detail on that and where the glass? That is a fact. You do need to have the glass being drawn in the United States, which kind of narrows it down. Fujikura is our parent company based over in Japan. So we do have options for using Corning glass in any of our cables to make them BABA compliant. So really the thing that's holding up the ribbon is today, it was ribbonized. That process was done is done in Japan. We have brought the ribbonizing machines over to the United States and they're in the process of getting set up and ready to run. So we will be ribbonizing. You even have to ribbonize in the US as well. So that is the only hang up. Otherwise, ribbon cable already would be compliant using Corning glass. And of course, we jacket it, armor it, everything in South Carolina as well.
Nice.
So
I know for a process, the way that the NTIA requires a vendor to be certified, it starts with an executive filling out a self-certification form that states that everything they're specifying is manufactured final assembly here. So they give the details on harmonization codes, country of origins. The next thing that vendor does is they've got to have those products listed on their website as BABA certified or BABA compliant. The third aspect of this, and this is really important for those who are going to bid. And one of the values that we have at Winncom is we pull all this together. For BABA certification, you'll need a certification letter from that manufacturer, and you'll include that as part of your grant application. For exempt products, you do not need a letter, but there is a compliancy piece that you as the applicant will need to take care of. But we essentially will collect that information, and it'll be things like manufacturer part number, descriptions, quantities, HS codes, country of origins. So we'll put all that together as a team. That way, as you apply for these grant applications, be it fiber, be it active or passive, fixed wireless access, infrastructure, you'll have all those documents and certifications at your fingertip.
Yeah, and I can say what I have heard this, Rich maybe has heard even more, but I think to simplify things and make sure everybody knows right when it's quoted, we essentially would have the same existing part number that we have today, say for a 144 count ribbon cable. And at the end of that part number, it'll say BABA, which means that it is 100% BABA compliance.
Nice.
You heard too, Rich?
I haven't known of the numbering system as of yet, but
Something will be in that will let you know that it is BABA compliant. And that's then the part number, obviously, you want to order. And we'll have it on the quote. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
A lot of changes, but everything is necessary. A lot of work behind the scenes.
And this was one of the articles from the White House visit. So
yeah,
again,
that goes all the way back to October 9th, so just about a year ago of 23.
And one of the reasons we like partnering with AFL is not only are they compliant, they've been an industry leader by kind of following this process since the very beginning and help shaping what some of these requirements look like.
So, Alex, I guess teeing off on the BEAD conversation and customers looking to apply for BEAD funding, can you explain how Winncom's enhanced services can help streamline and simplify that application process?
Absolutely, absolutely. So all these, they all start with a consultative call. It's from our perspective, we need to understand, what have you done so far? Were you part of the challenge process? And that ties into offensive and defensive strategies. Once we understand what you've done, then the next is from the expansion perspective, how are you looking to accomplish that? Now, each state has different technology preferences. As the NOFO indicated, fiber is the primary method. So understanding your existing infrastructure, if you have asset locations or fiber spines in what states and what counties. Now, from there, as you can see in this slide, there's a host of things we can do to really make this an easy process. So first, it starts with some pre-engineering. We have a program, it's a QGIS database. Consider it like neighborhood information. An analogy I use a lot here is an onion. Onions have multiple different layers. So for that pre-engineering perspective, we want to chop this up as fine as we can and understand everything that's going on in that particular area. So let's say you're looking at a county or multi-county deployments. First, we're going to look at what is the opportunity? How many unserved or underserved locations are there? Now, this isn't CostQuest, and you're not getting GPS coordinates for each individual residential or consumer location. It's based on a hexagon, so neighborhood information. So we can see within each hexagon's 0.2 square miles how many eligible customers are in that area. But it gives us a great resource from a planning perspective. And then we can peel that back. How many or what type of technology is there existing? Is it fiber? Is it fixed wireless access? Is it DSL? Is it cable? We can pull Ookla information. So what are the average upload and download speeds? And then we can look at exclusion information. You can't double dip, for lack of a better word. So if there's RDOF funding in that particular area, as an example, it's not going to be BEAD eligible. But again, the goal of this program is helping you to take a large county and narrow it down into segments of where you want to develop your form of attack. Now, moving to a more defined role, we have a program that does some really interesting things. So first of which, it will pull CostQuest Fabric D license. So I get the exact GPS locations for your unserved, underserved locations for residential and your commercial, along with your community anchor locations. So it'll take that information, it'll map it. And I have a slide that shows you kind of what this is going to look like. It's also going to pull from the GIS database. So I can see how rocky your terrain is, what your soil consistency is, and what it's made of. And with that information, there's an embedded AI engine which will determine really the most cost-effective path of developing a fiber spine and drops to each customer's location. And then it takes it a step further by providing a 10-year pro forma, which is something you're going to need to develop as you apply for these BEAD applications. So to look at this a little bit more in depth, what this slide is showing you two things. So this is an example of your CostQuest information. Blue is residential and red is commercial properties. This is an example of what it's developing. So there's about 15 questions we've got to answer. Are you putting in aerial or burial? What percentage of each? What does it cost to run aerial or burial for a mile? What is your standard subscriber plan? What is your premium subscriber plan? What is your estimated adoption rate? So questions like that give us the ability to put together some costing information, which will then build into that pro forma. It'll also allow us to customize a hybrid fiber spine that is the most effective route to these particular customers. Now, not only does it do that, it develops project areas for each area. It grades them. So you'll have a score, 100 being the highest, 0 being the lowest, obviously, and it pulls demographic information. So that 10-year pro forma that you're going to need to submit, this is going to give you what your total cost for the project is going to look like, what your grant request is going to look like, what your estimated subscriber revenue would look like, your cost of goods sold, your gross profit, your capital expenditures, but it will also give you a win percentage estimate. And that is based on previous funding vehicles and experiences. So this is a great tool that, again, provides high-level fiber design, gives you information you're going to need to submit these applications, and has a win-loss analysis engine that can really give us a sense of what areas do we need to tweak to be competitive. And then we do that in parallel to looking at your state's individual scoring programs. But our goal, again, it's making this a simpler process, but ultimately ensuring that if you're going to apply, you've got the best chance possible. Now, in addition to that high-level fiber design, we can also provide grant writing services. So this could be as simple as document collection, but in most cases, customers like us to do everything from A to Z. So that's collecting the financial information, that's putting together the project narratives, that's pulling together the budget narratives, that's taking the technical information, for example, that we've seen previously on the high, on your fiber design, taking that, putting into an application form exclusive to your state, submitting it on your behalf, and then if wanted or required, but highly recommended, there's a post-award compliancy piece to ensure that money doesn't get clawed back, and then there are a lot of rules and regulations around justification that we can help mitigate. We have the ability to offer professional engineering services. Now, this could be as simple as part of the requirements for each grant, you have to have a PE stamp drawing. We can do that. The next slide, there's 3 SKUs. So we've really made it simple. The SKUs on our website, it's based on document length. We can either audit something you've done, or we can do it literally from scratch. The professional engineering service gives us, I guess for lack of a better word, a force multiplier. We have access to project managers, design engineers, OSP draft designers. Where this comes into play is right before you submit an application, this service allows you to do a low-level componentized design, which you then would include that cost in your grant application. And once you won or awarded that money, you would then engage on that particular low-level design. We can also put boots on the ground in all 50 states. So depending on what help you need, there's a program here for you. And then this is an example of those PE stamp drawings. And then we bring this full circle with our partner Leaf. And Leaf helps from 2 perspectives. One is the high-level design, the grant writing. There's a cost for those services. So instead of taking a CapEx hit up front, you can carry that over a 3-year period. Now, every state's a little bit different, but most states, when I say most, 9 out of 10 states, the work that you're putting into it is refundable. So that would give you the ability, again, to maximize your cash flow, carry that over a 3-year period of time, and then once it's accepted in your application, it's refundable. So again, you're not putting all that money out at once. There is also a 25% grant match requirement, and that could be cash or that could be in kind. And we could spend an entire session going over what they are. Again, if you've got questions, there is a summary slide at the end with our information for contact. Reach out and we can do a one-on-one, but we can do equipment leasing. So if we wanted to lease your ADSS cable, that's part of your design, we could do that over a 4-year period of time, which makes you eligible for that 25% grant match, but gives you another lever, so to speak, a way to really manage your cash flows. So we've put all these programs together to help you, to make this an easier process. We're here for any support you would need. And I would ask, if you need help, ask and we'll set up a one-on-one. I had a slide earlier that referenced something here, but this is our BEAD portal. It's free of charge. It has all that information. So we've collected all the documentation you're going to need for each state, hyperlinks to the websites, their volume 2s, their volume 1s, their 5-year plans, everything you would need to submit these applications all on one site. And then there's a repository of information of things like today's panel discussion, where if you wanted a deep dive in different product sections or wanted to hear more about grant writing or professional engineering, we have that ability. So again, reach out if you've got additional questions or reference this wincomus.com/BEAD/. And again, my name is Alex Cernick. I can be contacted directly at a.cernick@winncom.com. And before we conclude, this is a list of resources that are available for the APEX product line. So there's a landing page, there's introductory videos, there is modeling, instructional video series, landing page. So this is a great resource to get down the bits and bytes of this particular product. And then you've got a team of people here to help us assist in that as well. Rich, anything you guys like to add to this?
The only thing that I would say is that we've got a great video resource, but as Jeff alluded to, my travel schedule is pretty heavy. We pride ourselves in working with customers, working with the field, working at the craft level with on-site training to make sure not only that the closure is deployed, but it's deployed as effectively as possible.
Perfect. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat. So again, I'll just reiterate one last point. If you or if this resonates with you, if you're having challenges with your existing providers, if you're interested at applying to BABA and not sure of the steps, if you're looking for an OSP fiber solution via aerial burial conduit, we have the right mix and with the right partner with AFL. So please reach out through either our BEAD portal or directly to myself or to AFL, and we're certainly here to assist you.